In this video, I'll talk about the trigonometry review. The trigonometry is based on the understanding of a right angle triangle. What is right angle triangle? A right angle triangle is a triangle in which one angle is 90 degree, and we call that triangle as a right angle triangle. So for example, this is a right angle triangle because one angle is 90 degree. And if you look any triangle, the sum of all the angles is 180 degree. And if one angle is 90 degree, that means if I add this angle and this angle, this angle and this angle, that must be, the sum must be 90 degree. So now let's talk about the sides. The opposite of the 90 degree, the side opposite of the 90 degree we call as a hypotenuse. And if we consider this angle theta, so then the opposite of this angle, the side opposite of this angle we call it an opposite. And the next to this angle, the side next to this angle we call as an adjacent. So adjacent is simply the next to the angle we consider, and opposite is the opposite of the angle we have considered. So for example here, if we consider this angle alpha in the right angle triangle, then opposite of this angle will be this side. So this will be the opposite. And next to this angle is this side, and we call this angle as an adjacent. And the opposite of the 90 degree is this hypotenuse here. So this hypotenuse will not change, but depending upon the angle, opposite and the adjacent will flip. So I hope you will understand here adjacent and opposite. And this understanding is very, very important once we calculate the sine, cosine, and tangent. So now I'm going to talk about the Pythagorean theorem here. So again, every time we talk about something, it is based on a right angle triangle here. So in a right angle triangle, we call opposite of the 90 degree as a C, and this is my A and this is my B. So it doesn't matter what angle you consider. For any right angle triangle, the C square is always equal to A square plus B square. That is, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to a square of the opposite plus a square of the base or the adjacent. Or you can see in this right angle triangle, C square is equal to A square plus B square. You can also write down C square as a B square plus A square. It doesn't matter which way you write. Okay. The notation for the right angle is this one, or we sometimes also represent it this way or this way here. Okay. So now, for example, if I consider this kind of right angle triangle, and if I write down this way, then this will be 90 degree here. Okay. So that's the symbol for the right angle triangle. And if you have to calculate C, then we can simply take the square root of A square plus B square. And now let's say you have to find out B. How do you do that? So we have this equation C square plus A square plus B square, and that we call as a Pythagorean theorem, or that comes so the hypotenuse square is equal to the opposite square plus the adjacent square. And if I have to solve for B, so I'm simply finding B square, which will be C square minus A square, and it is a square, so if I remove a square, then I have to take the square root. So B is equal to C square minus A square. And exactly the same way you can find out A. So the Pythagorean theorem allows you to find out the one side if the two sides are given. If the length of the two sides are given, then you should be able to find out the length of the third side. And here is an example here. In this right angle triangle, I am calling right angle triangle because one angle is 90 degree. This is 3 meter and that's a 4 meter. So A is 3 meter and B will be 4 meter. And we have to find out the missing side, which is the hypotenuse here. So from Pythagorean formula, C is simply equal to a square root of a square plus b square, if you see here. And if you plug in your calculator 3 square plus 4 square, then it will give you 5 meter. And let me give you another example here. Now in this right angle triangle, you're given 15 meter and 9 meter here, and you have to find out this side here. So you see the hypotenuse is given and the opposite is given. You have to find out the adjacent if I consider this angle. So A, we call this angle, this side as an A, which is 9 meter, and B is not given, we have to find out, and C is 15 meter. So we have to solve for B. So what's the equation? If you look at the equation for the B, this is equal to C square minus A square. So C square minus A square, and plug in all the values. B is equal to 15 square, A is equal to 9, and if you do the math, you will get 12 meter. And exactly the same way, in this problem here, we given this as a 10 meter, the longest side, and the longest side we call as a C, or we call as a hypotenuse. And adjacent is given, which is 8 meter. And I'm calling adjacent because all the time I am thinking this as my reference angle, or this is the angle I'm considering. So in other words, B is given, and we have to find out A here. So this is C, this is B, and this is A, and we have to find out A. And if you look at the equation for finding A, this is C square minus B square. That's what we have to do, C square minus B square, and plug in the values of C, which is 10 meter, so 10 square, and B is 8 square, and you'll get 6 meter here. That's how you find out. So now, in order to test your understanding, you have to go through this questions here and write down the question, write down the answer for each question in the comment section below. You must have to. Okay. So here in this right angle triangle, these sides are given, and write down the question number 1, answer, and your number here. And similarly, in the comment section, write down question number 2 and your answer here. And exactly you can complete number 1, 2, and 3. And now move on. There are other questions here for 4, 5, and 6. And now let me tell you something in this problem here. In this triangle, this is also a right angle triangle because this angle is 90 degree. So opposite of this angle, this will be the C. That's a hypotenuse. And you can call this as A or you can call this as a B. It doesn't matter. Whatever you call A or B, you will get exactly the same answer. If you're going to call this an A, then you need to find out B. If you're going to call this as a B, then you have to find out A. And you'll get exactly the same answer. Okay. So again, write down question number 6 and your answer here. And now we have few more problems here based on what you learned in this video. In this problem here, this is again a right angle triangle because this is the 90 degree. So you have to level which is adjacent and which is the opposite and which one is the hypotenuse. Okay. So you can take a snapshot and then you can in fact attach. You can take a picture of your answer and write down in the comment section below. And again, for this problem here, you have to find out adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse. Okay, so solve these problems, write down your answer in the comment section below, and I will see if your answer is correct or incorrect. So this is it from this video, and in the next video, we'll talk about more about the trigonometry. Thank you very much, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe the channel. Thank you.